Trinity Trigger released recently in the West from Xseed Games, and this is trying to capture the essence of 90s games while also having some new modern twists to have all audiences interested in this RPG. That's a lot to do. So how does this game hold up? Well, if you played Secret of Mana or games like that, you will definitely recognize some aspects of this game. Long ago, there were two gods that had warriors that would fight for them, and you play as Cyan, who is the warrior of chaos and has no idea why. And then you meet up with your two friends, Elise, who is very sweet but also kicks some ass, and Xantis, who loves to go to the bars. You're on a quest to find out why. Why was I chosen and why is this all going down? I noticed right away I actually really liked the art style, which was funny because I don't usually like chibi art styles. I just think they're kind of lame at times. But with this game, the controls help a lot. It's really responsive and the running animation is just kind of cute. Like you have the little speed trails behind the characters and just their little chibi bodies running around full speed because you pick up speed really fast when just holding forward on the stick. It all looks really nice running around these chibi towns, and then you have really cozy music accompanying it. The best way I would describe this game right when I jumped into it was cozy, so that might be one of the best aspects of it. I think my biggest issue with this whole game is it could have been so much better. The presentation and everything was so nice. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have such a fun, cozy game to play, because the biggest thing I heard was couch co-op. I miss couch co-op. I love it so much to play with my brothers or friends and just see how far we can get, and this game has it to an actually really good degree. But when playing through it, the combat has some issues, so they got the story, presentation, and all that perfectly almost, but then the combat, the most important part in my opinion, has some issues, but they're small issues and they could even iron some of them out in patches. So let's get into it all. You have these little cute creatures called triggers that talk to you, and they get also turned into weapons. So you're basically going to be swapping through a bunch of different weapons that have basic move sets. Now, the game feels fine. It's pretty responsive, and you could dodge roll out of your attacks if the animations take too long. One thing I noticed is the buffer is a little ridiculous. If you don't know what a buffer is, basically means when you input an action on your controller, there's going to be like a tiny little delay before it actually gets registered. Elden Ring and some other new games have had this pretty hard, and it gets kind of annoying. This game has it really bad. Like, you could spam X 3 times and try to move your character, and they will not move until that entire X animation is finished. Like, you have to time your X presses, which is kind of fun. I don't have the biggest issue with long buffers, but just throwing that out there. I think with this game, it actually provides some clunkiness, so honestly, if the buffer was shortened, it would do a lot better. But let's go into the aspects that it does great. I think upgrading your mana is fun, basically the way you upgrade perks onto all your weapons. Now, this is basically a skill and perk type of thing, not necessarily combat, but I wanted to throw that out there. The actual movement and animations look pretty nice. I like just beating the crap out of things. So it's really fun to just kind of mindlessly bash stuff. So it is kind of a button masher. Now, there is a perfect dodge that basically refills your stamina, which I actually like. I know there's a lot of complaints towards this stamina. Certain people who played Secret of Mana actually enjoy it because it's basically the stamina from that game. But I enjoy it because it brings more strategy to the combat. You can't just button mash. You have to time when you do them, specifically because you upgrade your literal attacks. So like your first swing, your second swing, third swing, you upgrade those individually, so your third swing might have so much more damage than the first two. So you have to time, am I going to have any stamina to use it? So I actually kind of like the stamina system. I have no complaints there. Overall, the game's a fun time, especially if you have a co-op partner, but the problem is it could have been so much more fun. Let's get into a few things that I thought were just big issues and could even be fixed in a patch. The biggest issue for me in this game's combat is player feedback. Now, there's not many sounds that play when you hit enemies in this game. Like, it plays the sound of your sword swinging, but not any sound effects when you hit the enemy. Mix that with no vibration from your controller and a lot of visual effects on the screen. Sometimes you just lose your character, and I don't know what move I'm hitting the enemy with. And the problem with that is you have a stamina system where you're strategizing when to use stuff. And then there's also no vibration on your controller when you get hit, and the animation is way too quick. Sometimes your health bar will just chunk and you have no idea what the hell just hit you. I say this with a lot of games, but the game needs more oomph. By oomph, I mean the feeling of it is not up to par. Like, sometimes things go way too quick and you don't really know what's happening. Things need more of an oomph. Also, while I enjoyed the stamina system, there was one thing from Secret of Mana they also took that I didn't really like, and it was the way you select items and weapons with these wheels that you scroll through. The problem is there's too many weapons and items and you don't even put them on your D-pad or anything. I don't know what they were thinking with that. I don't even think you utilize the D-pad. Like, they needed to add more shortcuts and things like that so we don't have to pause the game every time. I mean, it's action combat. You don't want to be in a menu too much. Overall though, when you get the flow going and you're swapping teammates to do the right weaknesses and you're all dropping out your super moves, whether it's you doing that or with a co-op partner, it definitely gets fun. But like I said, if you're kind of sensitive like me and your things just don't feel right, it might annoy you, and people who want more combat depth might get a little annoyed here. It's very basic at its core. But if you just really enjoy the cozy vibes and you don't really care for too much combat stuff, you just want to beat up a bunch of enemies, I think you will definitely have a good time. I still had a great time, especially with the dungeons and exploration, which we'll get into right now. I think exploring was really fun in this game. Each area looks really pretty and has its own distinct design, and I love how they have the chest counter on the top here where they tell you how many chests are located. It incentivizes you to explore, and then I also always want to get the max amount of chests in each area. I honestly think this game fared better in a lot of its other areas besides combat because the game wasn't focusing solely on combat. Like, I know they wanted it to be really good, but they were mainly focusing on making this game feel like a 90s style RPG, and I think it succeeds at that pretty well. It's definitely very cozy, which I know a lot of people looking in to buy this game will want. There's an objective marker in this game, but I actually got lost a couple times. Not too bad, but enough to make myself explore around and wonder where I'm going next. Some people like this, some people might not like this. I actually kind of liked it just because I had to go talk to people, NPCs and stuff, kind of like an older game. The game having really nice areas to explore, and I would say a decent size of content, especially with side quests and other things added in. It's pretty dang fun. The dub voice actors did fantastic, and I liked the art style, so it wasn't hard to go through the game by any means. Like, the minor issues didn't really bring my experience down to where I'm like, oh, I would not recommend this game. But I would be hesitant, and I don't know about full price. I would say look at it, and if you really enjoy cozy, especially 90s style RPGs, I would definitely say get it, especially if you have a co-op partner. I do want to talk about the different versions of the game because I did play the PS5 version and the Switch version. Now, this game, if you like handheld JRPGs or just playing a lot of your games in handheld, this game is actually fantastic on the Switch. Now, docked, it looks a little scuffy, like there's not very much anti-aliasing. They actually try to do 60 FPS on handheld and on the screen. The thing is, on handheld, everything looks a lot sharper because it's smaller. It just feels nice, looks nice. On the big screen, the frames are easy like to see when they drop, and the aliasing's kind of bad, so that's up to you. If you play it on PS5, it is one of the crispiest games out there. I mean, you get 4K 60, so it looks fantastic, and then on Steam, on PC, that's whatever your specs are. So it really varies. Like, if you do prefer your Switch, I would totally say go with the version. I would say they're almost equal, like the pros and cons balance each other out. You don't necessarily need to get the higher version on the PlayStation or Steam. This game's art style just works really well with that. Some games like Sonic Frontiers are terrible when you drop it onto the Switch, and then they kind of make it worse for the consoles. But here with Trinity Trigger, it works fantastically. Like, the game works the same on both consoles. You just get a little bit higher resolution and a locked 60 FPS on PS5 and Steam. So it's pretty fantastic across the different consoles. So anyone who has the Switch, PlayStation, or Steam, they could choose whatever they want. In general, this game had a lot of workarounds to make it seem higher budget when it actually didn't have very big of a budget. Like, the dub and the voice acting and everything makes it stand out really nicely. I really appreciated the lengths they went because they really did not need to have to go out and get really good voice actors for this game and stuff. So that is totally appreciated. I've actually been playing this with a GameCube controller as well on my Switch with an adapter, so that is also super cool. It just feels really good with the GameCube controller, so if you're a fan with that, honestly, I would try that out. It's pretty dang cool. I was also praising Trinity Trigger for the physical versions of this game. They all come with an art book manual, and I haven't seen a game with this in so long. I think it's fantastic. The edition, the day one edition they give you anyways that I got, came with a box, an art book, a little soundtrack, a whole bunch of stuff that was really cool. So there's definitely a lot of love put into this game for older style RPGs and older games in general, especially with the manual. I just thought that was so cool. So yeah, Trinity Trigger was awesome, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. as a whole. Hopefully you are looking forward to more of my videos and reviews, because I got a lot more coming, so make sure to sub if you aren't. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.